Well, hello everyone and welcome to Online Darts. Here we are. It is grand final night of the Online Darts Live League. I'm Phil Bars and we've got the asset Paul Nicholson. Nico, It's been a long week, but it's been an absolute mint week.
It has been good, and I think more than anything else, it's been close. We've had people struggle in some of the groups. We saw Jamie Clark struggle in Group B yesterday and the day before. We saw Greg Ritchie struggle a little bit in Group C. But the fact of the matter is, when you've got 3 players on 20 points in Group A after 15 matches, and you can only separate them on leg difference, and 2 of them on something even closer than that, and then the same kind of thing happens in the group that follows that, it has been one of those weeks where the voice has been very, very close to ticking over to World Championship 2019, where I lost it completely.
Hello everyone and welcome along. Come and say hi in the chat room as always. I know plenty of you are in. Get your comments in who you think is going to win this evening. Obviously, we're going to talk about that. What's been your highlight of the week? There's been plenty of them. We've only missing the 9 and the 170 for the perfect week.
Yeah. Can we get them both tonight?
With Wolfie.
Possibly.
Wolfie, Ruthless. We've got a huge chance, let's be fair.
Yeah, I mean, you look at someone like Chaz, who was in good form last night in his first couple of games. That says to me that maybe getting out of the blocks, if you're someone like him, it really does lend itself to someone who can do that. But the 9 and the 170, I wouldn't put it past anybody tonight, especially James Richardson. Yeah.
Before we get into the nitty-gritty, please make sure you give us a thumbs up on the video and make sure you subscribe so you don't miss any future content here at Online Darts, including the live league, because we turn around very, very quickly for the next one, but we'll come on to that shortly. Normal ones in the chat room. Hi everyone, how are we all doing? Glad to have you along. Right, first of all, we're going to go way, way back, Nico, and this seems a long, long time ago. Group A.
Wow, what a group.
Monday, was that the best day of darts we have ever had on the live league?
Yeah, it was. And that's saying something, considering what we had in week 1 of phase 2. Where we had the likes of Beness and Adams and Richardson. That was a day that I will probably always remember. But the fact of the matter is, that first day on Monday just gone, it just had so much. And there are so many things that happened that day that have maybe been forgotten. You look at what happened at the end of Wednesday with that table there. But I look at someone like Joe Davis, who ended up at the bottom. He had moments. He took out 309 in 6. He had 2 massive finishes against Wolfie in the same match when he averaged 103. But people started as they meant to go on. Osborne, first match, averaged 104. And that was, for me, the game that told us that Monday was going to be that special.
Looking at that table, Martin Adams sat 5th. At this point, were you worried for Wolfie?
Yes and no. Yes, because he didn't look like he was as ruthless as we'd seen him. Now, he's a human being, and we know he's not the youngest. Thought maybe this week might be one too many, but the way he responded after that, I think, was incredibly Wolfie-esque and very admirable as well. But there were a lot of games taken away from him with huge finishes. That was, for me, one of the stories of Group A, because the likes of Osborne and Joe Davis and Sean Mcdonald, they were hitting finishes against Martin Adams. And he was standing at the back of this room thinking, how many times is this going to happen to me? And he was the person that people were finishing against.
Speaking of Sean Mcdonald, he was in contention in this group right up until the brilliance of James Richardson. But again, psychologically, that could have damaged Sean because he was coming in on an empty tank anyway, and secretly, I think he would have like 2 days off to recharge those batteries. And when that doesn't happen, obviously you've been in that situation as a player, that can be tough to take.
Very much so when you're so close to getting something, and especially when they couldn't be separated on points, leg difference, legs won. So we went all the way to head-to-head records. So the record he had with James over the 3 days is how we separated them, because James won 2 of the 3. But yes, it might have damaged him mentally very quickly. But the recovery of him over the next couple of days said to me that, and I said this in commentary last night, that guy's got an engine. And when you've got an engine as good as he's got, and what we've seen this week from him, in fact, the last 2 weeks, I think he's got a very bright future. He's at a great age. He's getting great experience here at the Live League. And I really do think that Sean McDonald's here to stay.
We'll come on to the final shortly, but it would be some story because he was almost that teenage protege where he went and won the Windmill World Youth Masters, broke onto the scene, didn't quite happen for him in a young career, walked away from the sport, has got a very successful career, built a family, and to come back to it, and we picked up on him in Q School. He jumped into the chat room a few times and his results were very good, but this has really enhanced him as a player.
It has. It's always going to be a good vehicle for some players, isn't it? You talk about Richie Edhouse last year, but Richie had a pedigree anyway.
David Evans
had experience within the BDO, so they used the Live League last year as a way of bridging their previous times in their career to where they are now. With Sean, it's a different story. You talk about people who have got this great technical and mental ability when they're young. You talk about players like Jason Crowley, players like Matt Chapman. There are so many.
Another one.
A fantastic example. But someone like Sean, who a lot of people will have known about up until, say, 2005, 2006, but then he disappeared. Is he going to do the Peter Wright, where he puts the darts away for a while, comes back and potentially gets a huge title, even a world championship sometime in the future? The standard he's shown this week tells me that there is the capability there. It's just about maintaining that high level with the elite.
So, Ruthless James Richardson tops Group A, and well done to him. Moving on, Group C. Now, where to start with this one? Because, again, right up until the last minute, you spoke to Richie Burnett going into yesterday, and he said to you, I think I need to win all 5 today.
It's a healthy mindset, isn't it? Because you put yourself in tournament knockout mode. And Burnett was saying that with his position after Thursday, I think I'm going to have to win all 5. There is a slight chance that I might be able to win 4 instead of 5. But at the end of play yesterday, he said to all of us in the back area that, oh, it's a good job I actually thought I needed to win 5 because I did. He needed to get all 5 and he needed to win some good matches in the end by a distance. Just so happened that it went down to the very last match of the group in a head-to-head with Jared Cole, who was somewhat unlucky because he played very, very well in Group C.
Yeah, the top 3 that had that shootout, you could have made a case for any one of the 3 to go through or miss out. And I know Jared was very philosophical on Twitter yesterday. He said, yes, it hurts now, but I learned a lot playing against Martin and Richie. But the one that I look at, blow it's probably the wrong word, but Scott Marsh will regret those darts to beat Wolfie, because if he takes them, he is probably here tonight.
Yeah, I think that's very fair. There was a couple of performances in that group that Scott will scratch his head about. He put in a big average on Thursday, and then the following one after that was about 77.
Yeah.
Or maybe even less than that. So that was a game that he let slip. But Scott is very well seasoned. He'll be back. But I think when you look at that group, from a distance or back on that group, you'll think about the head-to-head at the end. You'll think about some of the great darts you saw from Jared. But ultimately, the biggest thing was seeing Martin come through, with all due respect to Richie getting the 10 points on the Friday, but coming through and finishing off his 2 biggest finishes of the matches in his last 2 matches. So 108 and 64, gets a shot, takes a shot, and those 2 wins are what got him into this final.
That 108, you just kind of knew. Once that treble 20 went, there wasn't a doubt, was there?
Yes, there was. There was. I cast my mind back to a game he had with Ryan Joyce at Lakeside. It was my first Lakeside as a commentator, and I was watching it from the balcony, and Ryan Joyce was poised. I think he just missed double 18 for the match. And this was in the final set in front of a huge Sunday crowd. He takes out, it might have been 115. Might have been something really simple like a 60-15 in tops, but under the pressure, it was one of the best shots I'll ever remember. But it was very reminiscent of that. Just goes to show that class is permanent, but form can be lost. But Wolfie's got so much class, and he's in a class of his own sometimes.
Before we go on to Group B, plenty in the chat room. Missy is in. How are we all doing? Marsh showing consistent. Yeah, agreed. Yankee Clipper is in. Welcome along. Denver Tavern, McDonald's treble 19 hitting is unbelievable. Yeah, big feature of his game is that switch.
Yeah, he was rather good yesterday, wasn't he?
Yeah.
It's almost as good as Conan Whitehead's treble 18 hitting, which has been this week rather sickening.
Yeah. Saldor says, can you give us a breakdown on the money? I haven't got a slide, but off the top of my head, we'll put it on Twitter once we're done because I've got one out in the office. But it's 5,000 to the winner, 250 for runner-up. 5,000
for the winner, 2,000 for 5,000 winner, 2,000 runner-up. I do believe it's 1,250 for third place, and I think it might be 1,000 for fourth, and then 500 for the two people who don't make the semis.
We have got a breakdown. We'll put it on Twitter once we finish the stream, mate, for you. Sean McDonald's a great prospect. Yeah, absolutely. A lot of love in there. Adam Sweet Richardson in the final. Lots of going on there. Barstow and McDonald to win. We'll come on to Chaz in a minute. Adams to break the glass ceiling tonight.
Glass ceiling? It's not glass. It's not glass. I can assure you. That's a good way to watch the live league. Through the glass ceiling.
Then moving on. Group B. Sean McDonald does it again. The chips are down and against him, and he finds a way. And to top that group, that's momentum, isn't it?
Yeah, it's really good for his confidence. I get the feeling that if Sean was in Group C, let's say that Group B was played in the morning, like Group C was, I'm not sure he would have got through. But having that time during the day to recharge his batteries and play late Thursday and Friday, I think that really helped him. He was very consistent through that group. He played at his own pace. He had some marvellous performances. I do believe he had a personal best performance last night as well. Yeah. So what does that tell you about his engine and where his game is at? His arm is in a very, very good autopilot mode, and if he puts in the performances like that tonight, he will get through his group.
Conan Whitehead as well. In Group A, he missed a lot of clutch darts at a double. Yeah. But in this group, he put that right. Those darts for the 113, I think there was maybe a 128 or something along those lines. Yeah. So he was missing them Monday to Wednesday, but here he was taking them.
Yeah, I think the difference between A and Group B for Conan was the fact that he wasn't subjected to so many 4-3s and 4-3 losses, that is, because he lost so many of them, particularly to Colin Osborne. He lost so many points to Aussie. But for him to get second spot in that table, above Chaz Barstow in the end, it just goes to show just how well he fought yesterday. He brought some intensity into this room yesterday, and I loved watching it because every single double he hit, he was giving it some. Yeah. And when you think about what's on the line tonight, he's going to give more.
It just shows how much this means to the players. We're talking for a huge prize fund tonight in amateur darts.
People like to play for money. I mean, it's been happening in the game for 40 years. You know, there were money games back in the 70s and 80s in local places, and you know, these were dark corners of towns where people would put hundreds of pounds and people were gambling on stuff like this. This is not the same concept, of course. This is a very structured thing, but dart players still like to play for money, and I think tonight is all about people trying to fund their future, because some of these players that are in tonight, like Conan, like Sean, like Chaz, they're trying to fund their future for the professional game.
Before we wrap Group B up, just a word for Jamie Clark. You look at those stats and they look bleak, but he played a lot better than what those stats say on paper.
He played better on Friday than he did on Thursday. He looked a little bit cold on Thursday, and he was caught that way by some brilliant play from his opponents. It just so happens he came into a group that was full of hot players. Yeah. But he played much better on Friday. I'm glad he got that win against Chaz a little bit later on, because he worked really, really hard. Excuse me, he worked really, really hard for that. But yeah, don't forget about the fact that Colin Osborne was heavily fancied to come through that group, and I think he played brilliantly this week. It was really good to see him close up for 5 days, and I'm sure everybody wants to wish Colin the best for his immediate future. He definitely can get back on tour with the form he's showed.
Oh, completely. Johnny, we'll touch on that when we do a bit about general darts in the end, mate. We won't dodge it. We'll touch on that then. Where is it? Smooth Criminal. So good to have Paul commentating. Good stuff. Where are we? Peter says, I see similarities between Barstow and Ronnie Baxter throw.
Yeah, did you nick that off me? Because I said that in commentary 7 weeks ago when Barstow was here. I said about the sideways angle, and then he releases it quite swiftly. So yes, that's absolutely a good comparison.
Yeah, Boise is in as well. He said, "I'm looking forward to Fallon." Yeah, Fallon's in the studio in London for Sporty Stuff TV. So make sure you give Fallon some support as well. So we will get this one up. The match bracket, how everyone came through Champions Week into the pack. James Richardson obviously coming through Group A as winner. Then Sean McDonald, Conan Whitehead, Chaz Barstow coming through Group B. And the Mad Hatter, Richie Burnett and Wolfie Martin Adams coming through Group C. And it will be played down to a winner this evening. New slide for you. We've got it in groups now, so we can think. Group 1 tonight will be James Richardson, Conan Whitehead, and Martin Adams. Group 2, Scott McDonald, Richie Burnett, and Chaz Barstow.
Where to start? I think from the experience that I've had over the last, say, 4 weeks, coming here a couple of times to do finals, the start is really key, isn't it? You don't want to lose that first game, but if you do, you have to lose it 4-3. You do not want to lose big in that first game. So when you look at that slide, for instance, James Richardson, who has not had a competitive game here since Wednesday afternoon, knowing James as I do, he's going to have hammered that practice board.
Oh yeah, the board's up at the hotel.
Yeah. That first game against Whitehead is massive. And there's going to be some intensity in that match. I think there could be a fair few 180s. But you look at the other group, Burnett and McDonald, they know all about each other. But boy, oh boy, the starts that Barstow's had, especially yesterday, fresh in his memory, banging in a 105 to start with, backing it up with a 103. If he can do that in the group, he's going to swim in confidence. And if he can keep that level up, he can win this.
What we've seen all week, can you see these groups going down to leg difference for someone to come out of it?
For the people watching at home, I really hope so. For me and for the stats guys, I hope not. Because on Wednesday, it was a nightmare.
The abacus was out and...
I've never known anything like it. When you've got 15 games per player, you think, well, surely there's going to be an easy way to separate them. But that was just changing every single leg. And for a shorter format like this tonight, which is particularly cutthroat, I'm going to have to stay on my abacus tonight. But I think with the strength of the finals, I think it could.
Mark, our stats guy, he's back in the hotel at the moment. He'll be here later on. He does an absolute tremendous job. He literally, his spreadsheet was out and the averages were up. And to one point, it was like this could go down to 91 point, and we were going down to the point of the averages at one point to decide it. It was that close. Yeah. Mark does a tremendous job on the stats. Yeah,
I've mentioned Mark a couple of times. I think he's been a huge acquisition for us at this project. He does such a tireless job, and you don't get to see what happens backstage. The work that goes in from Phil, myself, the players, the security, the COVID health officer, all of that kind of stuff. It all goes in to give you this entertainment, and they all do an amazing job. Particularly Mark, he has done so well the last few months. He's done a tireless job. Unreal.
And there's the overall stats one with the rough timings. We'll have a winner crowned somewhere around 1:15 this morning. Who do you see missing out from the groups? I know it's going to be tough, but what does your punditry sixth sense tell you?
That is really tough. I've looked at it all day long because I knew you were going to ask me this, and I genuinely don't know. I looked at Martin yesterday, and I thought I kind of worried because he was playing his fifth day in a row, and I thought he looked like he was going very deep in the well. I do not want this to happen because I know there's so many Martin Adams fans out there, but I think maybe in that group, possibly Wolfie, because he did look like he was tiring by the end of the week. When he won week 1 in qualification for this, we talked about the point that he had those 2 days to rest before he came into Saturday. He hasn't had that luxury this time. He's only had Friday night and Saturday morning. So if you were holding a gun to my head, metaphorically speaking, of course, because this isn't Russian roulette, I would have to say Martin in that group. if I've got my punditry hat on. As far as the other one's concerned, I think Mcdonald's going to get through that group. I just think he's looked really, really solid. And I think Burnett might not get through that group. And that's a hard call for me. But you've asked me the question.
Oh, that's what we're here to do.
I think the explosive nature of Barstow will get him through the group. But there is going to be no result tonight that will shock me. Because all 6 players have got every single right to be here.
Talking about momentum and going into this, Mcdonald will be on top of the world, won't he? Yeah,
he's done really well with his recovery this week. I have to applaud him. He's getting lots of fresh air. He's getting out. He's getting his vitamin D with the sun. And even when it's tipping with rain outside, he's getting that fresh air. It's such a big thing. You can't cook yourself up in the hotel. And, of course, when you're allowed to go outside, which is something I wouldn't have said about 2 years ago, you've got to get out. You've got to recharge your batteries, and you've got to be able to do that. Sean seems to be able to play really, really hard and then recharge himself fully for the next challenge. And he's now playing his 12th day in 13. At some point, he's going to hit the wall, but I just don't think it's going to be tonight.
Again, with that metaphorical gun pointed to your head at around 1:15.
Don't ask me this. Just don't.
Who picks up that wonderful check for £5,000 and the Sporty Stuff TV trophy?
Somebody asked me this earlier, and I said Barstow, and I'm not going to change my mind. I think he's got an explosive game, and he has a Saturday night knack. I remember week 8 in phase 1. He was not great on the Friday. He did just enough to just squeak through to the finals. But when he came to Saturday night, he was amazing. And I think there were glimpses of that yesterday. I really do think he can do it.
There was, like you, I've looked at a lot of the numbers, and I can't get this out of my head that all bar one yesterday, Richie Burnett was around that 95 average mark.
Yeah.
There was one duffer
yeah.
that he put in, but the other 4 were all around that 95 average mark. High 93, clipping 96.
Yeah, that's great. And I completely agree with you. I think in that format of that group where it's 4 games or 5, that's really strong. But this is a very different dynamic tonight, where you've got to have that ability to maybe chuck in a 105 to 111. And that's where I look at James Richardson and Barstow, because whereas Richie has done that on occasion here in this room, I think Barstow and Richardson have done it more. They've got more likelihood of putting that number in. We've seen the ceiling level of Richardson at around 111, 112. Barstow can get to that point. Can the others? I think that is the crux of tonight.
But then Martin Adams, Richie Burnett especially, the special that we did to launch this again, same type of environment, and he wasn't fancied that night, and he found ways to win games.
Yeah, that's very true. I think if he can go the whole night and James Wade the night, an average 95, and get every opportunity and take all of his opportunities, he can do this, because we know a 95 average can defy a 105, but that puts massive pressure on every shot he's got. Richie has got this knack, well, he has had in his career, where he can get a huge average range. I think he averaged over 120 in the European Tour event once. And that's something that is anecdotal. It's not absolutely truth, but people say that 1 year in Dusseldorf, he reached that 120 level. Can he do that tonight? Well, you're going to have to tune in and find out, aren't you?
Yeah, Sporty Stuff TV and the Online Darts YouTube channel from 10 p.m. and you will find that. But I can't wait. The whole climax of the week is coming in the next few hours. And like we said, it's been an unbelievable week of darts, and it'd just be fitting if we get something special this evening.
I don't expect anything less. I'm not putting a bit extra pressure on the players, because there's enough pressure for them to put on themselves. They want to get themselves out of the group. They want to have the opportunity for that £5,000, which will be a nice little thing to have in the bank account come a couple of weeks' time when it goes through the payment system. I don't know how long that takes. It's not going to be paid in Bitcoin, I can tell you that. But can you imagine that in the future if we're playing for cryptocurrency? Well, you heard it here first.
You wouldn't write it off, would you?
No, absolutely not. I mean, I'm sure when darts was being played by the French in the 19th century, they were playing for bags of corn.
Yeah, completely. Well, again, let us know in the comments, who do you think is going to win the Online Darts Live League this evening, the grand final from 10 o'clock. Let us know who you think are going to get the job done. A lot of love for Barstow in there as well. I think Chaz, he's terrific. Yeah, really nice bloke as well.
Yeah, I really like him. And I suppose, I haven't had a great deal of time to speak to him, but he doesn't mess around. When you look at sports where people just don't mess around, they automatically become someone you want to watch, someone you want to deal with, someone you want to interview. I knew nothing about Chaz before this year started. And when you look at what he did at Q School and what he did with all of the opportunities at the Pro Tour, you look at his game and you think, boy, oh boy, this is made for TV.
He was saying last night he's excited. He's already got the call that he's in the next block of Pro Tours as well.
Terrific. He's going to cause people problems.
Well, he could be at the Players and the Worlds and not have a tour card at this rate. And he was saying that this here is building his game because there's no one else outside the 128 is getting practice.
Play within the rules. Play within the rules. Do the Ratajski thing. Go wherever you can.
Yeah.
If anything, what he's done is he's exposed the best thing about not getting his card. Danny Baggish getting that card on the final day has given Barstow the opportunity to play here, and he's still playing pro darts anyway.
Yeah, completely. Sam says, is Fallon only on Sporty Stuff? Yep, she's in the studio in London. So not on YouTube, but she's on Sporty Stuff. Hi, Paul. Is it possible to buy your darts and get them signed?
Christopher Vikstrand.
Yeah.
You gave Magnus Karras a set a couple of years ago. Well, Christopher, I don't give up my personal address, but
DM you on Twitter.
Yeah, DM me on Twitter and see if we can figure it out.
There you go. Lot going on in the darts world as well, Paul. Whilst we let the chat room catch up, like we said, Pro Tour coming up. The race for Blackpool has hotted up. You were there in Milton Keynes for that Super Series, and there's probably not a lot of margin for error now. Maybe only 2 spots available on that order of merit potentially. Yeah,
I had a chat about this with somebody yesterday, and I said that maybe the 2 spots with Jermaine Watamina and Matters Razma are the ones possibly on the chopping block, because you look at Matters and you look at Jermaine and their form, whereas they're playing all right, they will probably have to find another level if they're going to protect those spots. And there are people behind them, so many people behind them, who could possibly nick those spots. And I look down as far as Adrian Lewis, and potentially at Adrian Lewis to stick one of those spots in his pocket, because the form that he showed in Milton Keynes says to me that he could possibly bank somewhere in the region of 10 grand in Coventry, and if he does that, he'll be safe.
Touching on Adrian Lewis, that 4 days, is that what us darts fans, forget punditry and the way we work in it, is that what darts fans have been waiting for? That resurgence of Adrian Lewis, because it looked majestic again.
Yeah, it looked good over a sustained 4-day period. But if you look back at the Winter Series, he made a semi-final there and he looked good there, and then it didn't happen. So I'm putting a big fat question mark next to that. I want Adrian to qualify.
Yeah,
I've got my hand on my heart. I want him to be there because we know how good he can be. As for what is happening away from the hockey with Adrian, we have got no clue. We don't know if everything's rosy, if there are things going on. But the fact of the matter is, in Milton Keynes, he looked better, he looked focused, and boy, was he nicking games from people. And that's such a great quality to have when you are scrapping for your, I think it's, was he 16th consecutive match play, something like that?
Something like that, yeah.
Because he hasn't missed it since, what, 2005?
Yeah.
So there are streaks on offer here. Beaton, Whitlock, Lewis. All 3 of them have been at the match play every year since 2009. We could lose all 3.
Unthinkable.
Yeah, that is a ridiculous turn of events.
Other things in the Super Series, top 16 are now breathing a huge sigh of relief because there is a certain ferret that has crossed the line and will now not be one of the floaters that the Seeds wanted to avoid.
He might still lose that. If he has a bad series, he could lose it.
But right now, he's in the right side of the seeding.
I'll tell you who's not happy about it. That's Gavin Price at number 1, because if he gets through the first round of the match play, he'll play Johnny Clayton more than likely. But these are the things that have to happen because the Premier League champion is going to have to get in the top 10 by the end of the year, surely, with the way he's playing. But there are no giveaways in darts. I mean, we saw what happened with Glenn after he won the Premier League. His form did drop, but I don't think we're going to see that from Johnny. But there are portions of the top 16 where you look at someone like Glenn, who's not in the best of form, and then there are people in the qualifying list towards the top who are not in the best of form. And yes, I'm talking about Devin Peterson, because he did not play well in Milton Keynes at all. He's got a lot to figure out. And he might need a good Super Series in Coventry just to get some form back.
It's 2 Super Series in a row now. Not really happened for Dev. The first one we put down maybe to everything in the build-up to it, the fact he had to rush back to South Africa, quarantine for his passport and all that. But we put maybe just down to that. But 2 bad ones in a row, question marks.
Yeah, there are. There really are questions. I don't know. I didn't actually get to see any of his games because he wasn't on the stream when I was doing it for the PDC. But I don't know what the technical things are going on, or whether it's mental, whether it's something else. But ultimately, there will be question marks. He's at the top of the qualifying list because of everything he's done in the last 12 months. But his immediate form is worrying. And I suppose the somewhat darting masochist that I am, I'd love to see Glenn Durrant draw Devin Peterson in the first round. And I think that would be a very interesting narrative going into that game.
One of the seeds, again, there was question marks around Rob Cross. However, he's answered a lot of them. That was arguably the best version of Rob Cross we've seen for over a year.
I was raving about him when he was playing Peter Wright 2 years in a row in quarterfinals. They ultimately won 1 each. But for a couple of days in a row, he was averaging 100. He looked superb. And boy, was it good to see. The thing is, his technical flaw that he had last year with his dart wavering up and down before he threw it, I brought that up. I don't know what it was. I think it might have been at the Summer Series or something like that. But when he's corrected that a little bit, it's still got some work to do. It's still wavering a little bit. But boy, was he good. And he was stealing legs away. He was bossing legs. He was putting in these really big amounts of 180s, which is not really what his game's about. But overall, majestic to watch.
Upcoming one in Coventry. Are we expecting to see everyone, or will certain players, you think, take some time off and practice away from the Super Series environment? Obviously, the ones that maybe can't get to the match play but are secure everywhere else, because it's going to be a bubble again because of the restrictions being put back. There was hope it was going to be a normal one. Yeah. That's not, and I know a lot of players have said they don't like that environment. So the ones that have got nothing to play for, are you expecting them to skip, or do you still think they'll play?
Look, you've got a tour card. The clock's ticking on whether you've got this card or not. And if you are high at the rankings and you're thinking about choosing a break, I have to ask why. These events are not coming every weekend like they usually do. You have to program your calendar so that you're playing every PDC event you possibly can. So if someone turns to me and says, "Oh, I think I'll take a break and I'll practice at home," I'll tell you what, how about you hand your card in then? Because you're not a tour card holder to take breaks right now, because you're talking about 5 clusters of tournaments which have been brilliantly put on by the PDC. All of the time in between, that's where you can get your rest and practice at will. But when there's an event on, you go and play it, you win your money. So no excuses, go and play.
Just off what you said there, I know that you speak to the PDPA regularly and you're always looking to improve. There are certain players that we haven't seen on the Pro Tour for over a year for whatever reason they've chosen or given. Is it though time that something's brought in that if a player, no matter who you are, doesn't play X amount of games for a valid reason, if you've got a career-threatening injury or something, that's different.
Yeah.
But if there isn't what is deemed a legitimate reason, that tour card can be taken off players.
Don't see why not. I think you look at the PGA Tour and there are things called medical exemptions for people like Camilo Villegas. And he was able to keep his card for a little bit longer because he had a very serious injury. But you look at someone like Cristo Reyes, for instance. I don't remember what Cristo looks like.
Wesley Harms.
Yeah, that one puzzles the living bejesus out of me. I mean, he did well to get his card, and we haven't seen him since Summer Series last year, is it? Something like that?
I don't think he'll come to the Summer Series.
But, I mean, that is just puzzling. I mean, you've got a card, and yes, there are plenty of alternates who are taking advantage of it. But ultimately, if I was in his position and I didn't want to play PDC darts, I'd hand the card back.
Yeah.
You know, we used to get this thing from Roy Milan from Hong Kong. He'd come and get a card, and you'd think, oh, he's going to come over and he's going to play loads of events. And he never did. He used to annoy people. You think, well, why would you get a card if you're not going to use it? Now, in my opinion, there should be a rule stating that you have to play. I mean, what's a fair percentage? I mean, 50, I think, is probably a little bit high because you might be someone who wants to just have the freedom of playing whatever you want. But if you're a serious PDC professional, I think you should have to play 40% of your tournaments. And if you don't have a medical reason or a personal reason for whatever absences you have, I think there has to be action taken by the PDPA.
Completely agree. And jump back into the chat room because we weren't ignoring you. Seeing them all coming in. Always Alva says, who's playing next week? We will touch on that in a second. Good point. Well figured out.
Looking forward to telling you.
Excuse me. Darts needs a strong Adrian Lewis. Yeah, absolutely. What's the format for tonight? It is best of 7 all the way through. 2 groups, round robin, play each other once. Top 2 go through. Bottom 2 sadly depart. 2 semi-finals. Both winners go on to play the final. 3rd and 4th place playoff. That's your 10 games for this evening.
It's a 2-game round robin. It's about as cutthroat as it could possibly be in group format.
Yeah, completely agree. Where are we? We've done that one right. We haven't got a slide, but I will tell you who is playing. So
I can confirm that the person who tried to put my address up there, that is not my address. Good try. I can guarantee I don't live in Dartford.
I can second that as well.
Yeah. Maybe that's a bit of a play on words. I know there was 180 in there.
Right, everyone. Group 6 or week 6 next week. Group A, we will see Jared Cole, Robert Rickwood, Carl Wilkinson, Martin Thomas, Paul Hogan, and the one and only Terry Jenkins.
Yeah, we can finally tell you.
Bully is in the live league next week in Group A.
Yeah, this is going to be fun. I haven't seen Terry since we went to Bahrain together about 20 months ago. And I love this guy. He is immensely talented, of course, because of his CV, but he really does headline that group massively. But really looking forward to watching Robert Rickwood, of course, because he qualified to get here.
Through the MAD event.
Yeah, that's a huge thing. Martin Thomas, very similar to Chaz Barstow, has been an ever-present alternate this year, and he's taken some people out.
Yeah,
Hogan's going to get a full Group A, so it'll be interesting to see what he does over 15.
I like that because we all know the professional amateur, as he's been dubbed, was working all day, then coming here and playing the evenings. Yeah. Literally been up since 6 in the morning, shattered, taken a week off work because he wants to give this a go.
Yeah,
he could be a huge danger fresh.
Yeah, too right. I think it's really difficult for you to have a job during the day and then have to play at night, sometimes towards 2 o'clock in the morning. You can't imagine how difficult that could possibly be.
Yeah.
But don't forget about Carl Wilkinson and Jared Cole in that group. Very, very good players. We know what Jared can do. Carl was very good as a tour card holder the last couple of years.
Had some good stuff on the home tour as well at the end of last year.
He had some good stats, and he's fast. He's very entertaining to watch. And if he's got a decent level of form, he could upset people here.
And then Group C, Thursday and Friday morning, we will see Richard North, Lee Evans, and the return of Justin Smith.
Yeah, I haven't seen Justin for a while from Wales. Good player when he gets going.
Good young talent.
Yeah, just needs to keep his temper a little bit under wraps. He's a bit like Aaron Monk in that respect, but I like a bit of fire.
And then Group B, Friday and Saturday evening, Rhys Griffith, Jamie Kelling, and another drum roll, please. You will see Dieter Hedman enter the Online Darts Live League as well.
Yeah, it's a great addition. I think it'll be really interesting to see how Dieter plays against the guys and against this level of competition. It's a great opportunity for Dieter. We saw that Fallon has done some great stuff in here. We've seen Corinne have some great results as well in Corinne Hammond. But Dieter gets a chance, and it'll be interesting to see what she does.
Yeah, I'm really excited by. I don't want to play down tonight because it's obviously huge. But I am slightly excited for Monday morning.
Yeah, I mean, I've got next week off.
You're going to be watching, aren't you?
I'm going to be watching. I'm going to be tuning in to watch Terry Jenkins.
Yeah. Right, let's scroll back up. Oh, there's a lot of love for Terry Jenkins in the chat room. A lot of love for Bully.
And if you I'm not going to go too far, but that is not the only big name that we'll have in the next few weeks. There are some belters, believe me.
There is some unreal ones coming in.
It's like putting a bit of paprika and a little bit of chili and just stirring things up a bit. So just wait.
Yeah, really, really good. I'm not going to get into that debate. The ball, yeah. That's good to have, Jenks. Yes, bully. Dan says, has Ryan Searle secured his place in Blackpool? Mathematically, no. Realistically, yes.
He is not going to go to Coventry thinking that he's there.
No.
He's going to say to himself, you know, he wants to win another tournament. Let's just forget about the fact that he's trying to qualify for something for the first time. Ryan Searle was so close to beating the
last 2 years.
Yeah, he really, really wants to win another tournament. He wants to have a win in 2021. And I think sometimes we get too far ahead of ourselves when it comes to the match play race and the Grand Prix race and all this kind of thing. Ultimately, we have dart players like Ryan Searle who want to win another ranked event. And that's his mentality right now. But if he does that, he's going to be safe for everything.
Yeah, completely. Max, who's on next week? We've just told you, but we'll go through it again if you're late to the party. So Group A is Jared Cole, Robert Rickwood, Carl Wilkinson, Martin Thomas, Paul Hogan and Terry Jenkins. Joining them, Group C, Richard North, Lee Evans and Justin Smith. And Group B, Rhys Griffin, Jamie Kelling and Dieter Hedman joins the Online Darts Live League next week. Yankee Clipper, just wanted to say hi. Hope you have a good weekend. And you, mate. Theo, Phil looks smart. Yeah, I brush up every now and then. Put a polo shirt on every now and then.
You wouldn't believe how much product's gone into this.
Leo says, which averages Paul playing at the moment? Well, funny you should say that.
I had a little thrill before I came on camera using a set of his darts, and I'm not playing a great deal at the minute because I'm just about to go and have another operation.
But they went well, didn't they?
Yeah, they were really good. I won't tell you which ones
they were, but there was a lot of treble 20s here in a short space of time. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, I'm going through a process at the moment. I'm trying to, after so many group changes and so many injuries, trying to almost reboot everything, go back to what I was doing in 2008. It's a very difficult process. It's pretty much what Colin Osborne's been through with his game, a complete rebuild. Yeah. So that's what is ahead of me for the next 6 months.
Promising signs, though, for Paul Nicholson fans. Yeah. I saw it firsthand. They look good.
Yeah, sorry when one person's watching you. There's thousands watching you online.
I like this one. Any truth in the rumours that James Corden and James Wood are going to play you guys in the Online Darts Live League movie? I'll tell you what, the script that we could write...
Who's going to play me again?
James Woods.
Oh, James Woods. Oh, I'd take James McAvoy.
Could you imagine the script we could write from the first phone calls in, March last year to now? Yeah. The script would be unbelievable.
Yeah, it would be really good, actually. I can imagine James Woods playing me. It'd be a piece of candy. Piece of candy.
Yeah, absolutely superb. When's Phil's return? I guess you're on about Philip Douglas. Not sure whether he's going to play or not in this. Time will tell. But he's had a glittering career. He's given everything to the sport. He's earned the right to do whatever he wants.
Yeah, that's what retirement is, right?
Yeah.
Even though you've had 16 world titles and 16 world match plays,
yeah,
it doesn't mean you have to play till the day you grace the pearly gates. It's a case of enjoying the time with your family and doing all the other things you want, like missing the cue ball.
Yeah. World Seniors as well. The qualifying criteria is now out as well for those final 2 places in the World Seniors, and the signs look good that there is going to be a fully fledged Seniors tour. Well, after this, it's looking very, very good.
It was bound to happen, wasn't it? You've had it with golf for many years, and the success of the PGA Tour Champions and, of course, the Seniors Tour, the European Tour, and other sports are getting in on the act. There are people out there who have been watching darts for a very long time, and they ask questions like, what is Phil doing? If it's done sympathetically to people's retirements and their schedules with their families, then there's no reason why it couldn't be a success. I wouldn't put a great deal of events on, but I would put enough events on over a shorter period in the year where they can play concurrently and build up some form.
Yeah.
If you had 8 events, you wouldn't put one on every 3 weeks. You'd put them on a season type of thing, what they do with the Premier League.
Yeah.
And have it over the course of maybe 3 or 4 months. And then the rest of the year, they can enjoy the retirement, but then obviously the seniors tour would come back for whatever time frame they see fit.
It's a good one. I like this from Boise. Paul, if you could pick a dream team, 5 in their prime for the Online Darts Live League special, who would your 5 be? Current players and former players allowed to be included.
5.
Well, go 6, because then we can do it.
I was wondering that.
Go 6, because then we can do two groups of 3.
Taylor. I'd go with Priestley. John Pott. Maybe not in the same group. Maybe I would actually. That's a great group, that. Raymond, Eric. Ooh. And probably just for watchability, I'd put Jockey Wilson in.
I was going to say, could you add in Jockey in this room?
Yeah, it'd be hilarious. I'm a bit old school, so
yeah.
I mean, there's nothing against the likes of Price, MVG, Wright, and all of the modern world champions, but I get the feeling, some of the old school guys in here, they're kicking. I mean, there was a thing where Jockey kicked somebody's shin back in the air. It would happen in this room. It's not that big,
To be fair, we've got an extra big exclusion zone as well for the fact that Richie plays in here.
Yeah.
Because if you get too close, you're going to end up one round.
What I would do personally, I would have a 4-week block, and every single week is a different decade of greats. So I'd have 70s, 80s, 90s, and modern day.
I like that.
So, you can start 80s. 70s is a bit far. 80s, 90s, noughties, and then everything after that. So 80s, you'd have Eric and Jockey and Cliff and John Lowe and Bob Anderson. What a brilliant concept for a computer game, right?
Oh, absolute love that one. Boise says, presume you and PB to make it pressure on you, PB, to make it happen. Yeah. It's all good.
I'm just a commentator. I'm not an organizer, right?
Right, last few. Sam says, any news on the broadcaster for the World Seniors? No, talk's still ongoing. Multiple parties are involved or want to take it. So look, it will be on TV. I think it's safe to say that it will be on TV. It's just a matter of which one.
It'll be on your. Right, this is the thing about viewing things these days. It'll be on your TV, whether it's a TV channel or whether it is something that you can watch on your TV. Is up for debate.
It will be there. But I think that is just about. Oh, last one from there. Yeah, completely agree. Mark Webster looked good on his return last week. Yeah. Webby looked unreal at times.
Yeah, he's just playing darts without any pressure at the minute, and I think he's reveling in the fact that he can actually enjoy playing the game at the minute. And I was like that last year when I was playing in the Live League. I had some great performances, as did Mark. And I think those struggles that he had a couple of years ago are well behind him. But there's no reason why, if he wants to, why Mark couldn't return sometime in the future.
Massively. Well, everyone, thank you very much for joining us. Paul, pleasure taking time out as always. Remember, 10 p.m. this evening, the Online Darts YouTube channel and Sporty Stuff TV, the grand final here of the Online Darts Live League. It's been 4 weeks of battle. Final is the 5th week, and the last 6 remain. Who wins it from here? We will find out this evening. But thank you for joining us. It's us signing out, and we will see you very, very soon.